Guys, welcome back to another video. Tomorrow is a big day, and it's because Sofi has earnings tomorrow. Sofi might explode tomorrow, or it might implode. We never know. Back in the day, if you asked me a year ago if Sofi ended up beating earnings, it didn't seem to matter. Sofi actually ended up going down no matter how good the beat was, and no matter how good the numbers were. There was always something hidden in the PowerPoint presentation that they released that people didn't actually like, and that was what they focused on more than all the optimism. It does seem now that the market is more optimistic about Sofi than it was maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and so tomorrow might actually be a pretty big day. I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers talk about Sofi. I've been buying Sofi and I've been selling options on Sofi for so long now that it just kind of seems like a blur. You can see I have 6,632 shares of Sofi Technologies. If you were to ask me 2 years ago if I would ever have this much tied up in one single stock, almost 200 grand worth, my answer would be no. I would think that's crazy. I would never put this much in one individual stock. I always put majority of my money in index funds. And then I started selling options on Sofi because I made some crazy premiums for the amount of risk that I was willing to take on. And then what I'd do is I'd take that premium and I'd put it back into shares of Sofi. And after so long, I just started accumulating more and more shares and continued to sell options on the stock and have just generated income. Let me show you an example trade that I have and that I made actually this morning. This was my final trade before earnings. I sold a $27 strike put. This one expires not this Friday, but next Friday, and I made $84 from selling this put. So what are the implications when you sell a put option? Remember, we're not buying a put option, we're selling it to the buyers and we're making money doing so. And what I'm saying here is, if Sofi goes below $27 a share between now and next Friday, the buyer of this put can sell me their shares at $27 a piece. Even if it's going for, let's say, $26 a share, I still have to purchase them at $27, and that's what our contract here is saying. I'm getting paid for creating this contract, and the buyer of this put paid me $84. Now, if Sofi stays above $27 between now and 11/7, this will expire completely worthless. I got paid my $84 right when I sold this, so 7 hours ago. I was paid $84, and I still get to keep that money. However, this contract and the buyer of this put ends up losing that $84 and losing the ability to sell me 100 shares because it stayed above $27 and it was out of the money. And hopefully you can see, if I do this a few times a week, let's say I do this 5 times a week, that'd be 84 times 5. Of course, it's not always going to be $84, but for simplicity's sake, let's say it is. You can see how I can start to make actually pretty good money just selling a few puts a week on Sofi stock. I created this web app on selloptions.net. You can feel free to check it out for yourself, primarily so I could upload Robinhood statements and it can instantly tell me how much I made from selling options total. That way I wouldn't have to manually track all of my trades. But I also have some calculators on here, which you might be interested in. And I want to go ahead and I want to plug in the numbers for me selling this particular put and see how much this gained me in terms of ROI. Because when I sell this put, I do have to set aside money as collateral. I have to set aside $2,700 in case I do end up having to buy 100 shares of Sofi. And then when this expires worthless, or if it expires worthless, or I buy to close it at a lower price preferably, then that collateral gets released, goes back into my buying power, and I move on and look for my next trade. So what is the ROI for making this trade? I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and plug in the numbers. So the expiration was 11/7, so next Friday. The premium, this is per share, and it's exactly as you see right here. It's 84 cents. And the strike price was $27, and I only sold one contract. We can see that right here. If we hit calculate, we already know we're making $84 total. But what's the in terms of ROI? And this is inflated because we have earnings. There's more implied volatility. Well, the ROI in 11 days time is a 3.11%. And if I did this consistently, which I think is impossible, let's say I did, and I did this for the whole year, I can make over 100% a year selling options like this. Once again, that's impossible because earnings is 4 times a year. We're getting inflated premium because of earnings, so don't expect this to be true. By the way, I'm also going to plug down below, I do have a private chat group of me and some other options sellers. You can come chat with us. I wanted to create a community of like-minded option sellers and get us all together and hopefully build off each other and make a lot of money together. So if you want to go check that out, it's linked down below. So that was me selling a put. I also want to talk about something else I do, which is selling calls. Selling calls is different than selling a put because now I own the 100 shares, and I am saying if SoFi goes, in this case, above $31 a share by the expiration, so 11/14, then the buyer of this call has the right to buy 100 shares off of me for $31 a piece. So if it goes above 31 between now, which is pretty plausible because we're already near it right now, between now and 11/14, I am capping my gains. And I was paid money selling these calls. You can see I was paid $96 for each one of these, and I sold 2 total. So calls, in my opinion, are a little bit more risky because you are getting paid, but you're getting paid to cap your potential returns. But the good thing about options is you have options. So I'm not stuck with this $31 call. What I can do if I want to, and I might consider doing this tomorrow if SoFi does end up exploding with earnings, is rolling this position. So what you're essentially doing is you're buying to close your current position and you're selling to open a brand new one, typically at a higher strike price and a farther out expiration date. So let's look all the way to January 16th of 2026, and let's say I want to roll this to a $35 strike. So I'd buy to close and I'd pay money to close these 2 calls that I sold previously. However, I would get $232 as of right now to sell 2 brand new ones at a strike price of $35. And the difference here, I actually make money aside from just giving it more time and giving it a higher strike price. I'm actually making an extra $70 as well. So now if SoFi, let's say by this expiration right here, 116 is $36 a share, sure, I still have to sell 100 shares, or 200 in this case, at $35 a piece, but that's much more in terms of capital appreciation than $31 a piece. And that's what I love about selling options is you have the flexibility to maneuver and let time be on your side if things don't go exactly your way. And maybe, I don't care, maybe SoFi goes above $31 by 11/14, and I'm like, you know what, I'm okay with selling 200 shares at $31 a piece. And then if it dips back down, I'll start selling puts again. Maybe they'll get assigned to me and I'll buy back those 200 shares. And that is what's known as the wheel strategy. So I have plenty of options here. Tomorrow, earnings is going to be interesting. We're looking at an estimated 8 cents per share in EPS. I think they're going to do better than that. I see a lot of people saying the same. Who knows if that's going to be true, but that's my bet. Don't take this as financial advice, and don't think I'm some financial analyst because you couldn't be further from the truth. But I plan on making a video tomorrow post earnings, and I hope to see you there. I hope you're excited. I kind of am. I'm a little bit nervous too, but that comes with any earnings season. I hope to see you in a future video. And like I said, if you want to check out our private selling options chat group and help out the channel, go check it out. It's linked down below. Happy to have you there. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.